How dare I have all the
Yeah.
power tonight.
You do. I'm having a kind of a Indiana flashback tonight. Yes.
Yeah, because you've been here a couple of times.
Yeah, I know some of these humans.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Hey,
Or where are you, Laurie?
I'm now in Hudson, New York.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
upstate New York.
We're coast to coast.
Oh yeah, yeah. I do a Zoom workshop with people all over, which is really sweet because normally we'd never be able to do it. You know, there are people I've wanted to work with for a long time, and then suddenly you can, at least this way. Yeah, it's sweet. It's very sweet.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I've liked about having to go virtual with these readings, is that we're able to invite people that we wouldn't otherwise be able to invite.
It's great in that way. It really is. Yeah.
Okay, I think
Okay,
we
so
are.
Tony, I'm still getting that the live. Oh, what's going on? Okay, go.
What's up?
I said I was still getting a message that the live video hadn't started.
I think it's going.
Okay.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
I see it. It's going.
Okay.
Okay, good.
How do you find it on Facebook?
It's the Writers Guild Spoken Word Series page.
Oh, I guess I'll go to the thing I posted.
It's on the main Writers Guild page.
So Writers Guild Bloomington or
Okay.
Writers Guild at Bloomington on Facebook.
Live video hasn't started, it says, but it has, right? You're saying it has?
I see it going. I see 3 people watching. I think one of them is me. So we're off to a good start.
Yeah, up in the left corner, up in the upper left corner of my Zoom screen, it says live on Facebook.
Okay.
Right.
So I see that.
Yeah, me too.
So
But
we're live, all right.
all right.
But if you need it,
We're live. I just started a watch party on my end.
great. I just put in the chat a link to it. So hopefully that'll get you there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Shall we start?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Tony Brewer, and I am the treasurer of the Writers Guild at Bloomington, and along with my colleagues Joan Hawkins, who is chair of the Writers Guild, and Kyle Kloss, who is secretary of the Writers Guild, we are have been producing this spoken word series. This is actually our 3rd year producing it. We've been obviously locked down and shut out for part of this year, but we've been back up and running as a Zoom and Facebook Live series since May, and we are glad to have you here. Glad you could join us. If you would like to, it's still possible to get in on the Zoom, which has a lovely, lively chat function going on during the reading. Just drop a comment here on Facebook down in the comments, and I will shoot you a link real quick. Otherwise, thanks for being here. We are sponsored in part by the Indiana Arts Commission, the Bloomington Arts Commission, and the Bloomington Urban Enterprise Association. As I said, we've been producing this monthly series for about 3 years now. It's on the first Wednesday of the month at 6 o'clock, and we'll be back Wednesday, September 2nd for another installment. I wanted to mention that the Writers Guild at Bloomington wishes to acknowledge and honor the indigenous communities native to this region and recognize that Indiana University and the city of Bloomington were built on indigenous homelands and resources. We recognize the Miami, Delaware, Potawatomi, and Shawnee people as past, present, and future caretakers of this land. Before we get to our features this evening, I also wanted to mention a couple of events. the Third Sunday Right, which is our, excuse me, our generative workshop happens virtually on Facebook. We're continuing to hold the Third Sunday Right virtually. This is a once a month prompt. We have moved from Google Docs to Facebook for a number of reasons, mostly folks having trouble navigating Google Docs. So you'll get a prompt on the third Friday of the month, and then later you can share that piece with the group in a private Facebook page. If you're interested in joining Third Sunday Right Virtual Edition, contact Shauna Ritter. Her email address is Shauna747, that's SHANA 747 @gmail.com. Also coming up in a couple of weeks and also virtually, our monthly business meeting, excuse me, the Writers Guild monthly meeting, where we do all the fun things it takes to keep a not-for-profit going, even virtually. That will be Saturday, August 15th at 3 o'clock via Zoom. You can contact the Guild through Facebook or drop us an email through our website, and we'll give you the link. Or just like us on, and be sure to like us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Just mash that follow, and you'll get all the information you need. Also wanted to mention that, as you probably were aware, 4th Street Festival, that we usually have a big presence at the 4th Street Festival, is canceled this year. But instead is going to happen virtually, like a lot of other things, obviously. What they're going to do is essentially have an online store for artists that's going to go up Labor Day weekend and continue to be hosted through the end of the year. And the Writers Guild will have a presence on that site. More details as that comes together, but that's going to go live, I believe, excuse me, I believe that's going to go live Labor Day weekend, Saturday, September 5th. And as I said, stay up through the end of the year. Thrilled to bring our fantastic features this evening. We got 3 great writers. Laurie Stone, who's I think she said this is her 3rd time, virtually, this is her 3rd time reading in Bloomington. We've had her back a couple of times, and she's a dear friend of the Guild. Also, Katy Yocom, who has a debut novel, 3 Ways to Disappear. Thrilled to have her on board. And our good friend, Jason Ammerman, a poet from Indianapolis. And our musical guest, Sarah Casti, who we've featured a couple of times as well. Thrilled to have everybody here. We are also featuring a commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima on August 6th, 1945. And that will be delivered by Hiromi Yoshida. She's going to do a couple of poems. I think, Joan, unless there's anything else that I need to add or anything else that you can think of that I might need to, I think I covered the bases there. Okay, I'll take that as I think you got it. So first up, let me welcome Hiromi Yoshida to read 2 commemorative poems to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima, August 6, 1945. Hiromi Yoshida was a semifinalist for the 2018 Wilder Series Poetry Book Prize. Her poems have been published in the Indianapolis Review, the Asian American Literary Review, Tipton Poetry Journal, Evergreen Review, and the Rain, Party, and Disaster Society. She is the author of Joyce and Young, The 4 Stages of Eroticism in A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, and the chapbook Icarus Burning. She also will be a featured poet in this series next month. Hiromi?
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Tony, for that beautiful introduction, and many more thanks for inviting me to read on this special occasion. I'm going to begin with reading Festival of Dolls by J.L. Kato. J.L. Kato is a native of Japan who was adopted by an American serviceman and his Japanese bride. As a child, he became so assimilated into American culture that, to this day, he doesn't know how to handle chopsticks. He lives in Indiana, where he worked as an editor for Flying Island magazine. Festival of Dolls. On the cusp of puberty, August 1945. My world changed in a gasp. From Fukuoka, somewhere between Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I saw two chariot clouds that would lift me from the cellar where precious potatoes were stored. As if my atoms were shaken, rearranged, to find myself riding the cap of a mushroom shroud, drifting over Fujiyama, then east across the ocean. I believed any place else was better than where I lived, coaxing warmth from ashes, scouring streets for ragged sheets of seaweed to wrap around black market rice and fish. Once, I stole a sack of red plums, and Mother smacked my face before she sliced the fruit and offered it to Father. But in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, a hand imprinted on a cheek means nothing to shadows set in concrete. Why can't life be like Hinamatsuri, when I would dress up all my dolls for their hand-picked husbands? I would dream of real daughters to swathe in fine kimonos. I surrendered to smiling soldiers who nicknamed me Doll and promised me chocolates today and tomorrow. So much for a hungry girl with eyes for America, land of silk and money. All right, so that was J.L. Kato. This is a very short poem that I wrote and that J.L. Kato published in Flying Island exactly a year ago. It's titled Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The flash, the crash, the ash, decimation was instantaneous. Skeletons etched upon asphalt. Shadows sick with radiation. Vomited skyward curses. The true man hanging from the over-blossoming tree of public panic. Unlynched. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thanks so much, Hiromi. Wonderful. Thanks so much. So I wanted to let everyone know kind of our order of events this evening before we jump right in. We're going to have a opening song from Sarah Cassidy. And then Laurie and Katy decided they kind of wanted to do a reading in the round, tag team, whatever you want to call it. It's Laurie and Katy are essentially going to share a 20-minute set, divided however they decided among them to divide it. Then we'll have another set, a longer set from Sarah, and then a set of poems by Jason Ammerman. And then Sarah will favor us a song. Then we'll have another 20-minute set from both Laurie and Katy, again, divided however they see fit. And then Sarah Cassidy will close us out with a song. So that is our order of events, in which case next up is Sarah Cassidy. Sarah is a singer-songwriter who idolizes guitar-wielding women and personal, poetic, and eccentric storytelling. Inspired by the likes of Joni Mitchell, Alanis Morissette, Dodie Clark, and Jack Johnson, Sarah has been performing her original music around Indiana since her freshman year of high school. At Indiana University, she currently studies voice at the Jacobs School of Music with an outside field study in arts management. But if you asked her nicely to put all that on hold to do a big old tour, she would probably say yes. Please welcome Sarah Cassidy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the awesome introduction, Tony, and thank you so much for inviting me to be here. Last time I did one of these a few years ago, I remember having such an amazing time, and I'm so happy I can be here to listen to all the wonderful spoken word art. And I'm glad I can share my lyrics with you, my original songs with you guys today. So this first song I'd like to share is called Small Town, and it's my only song that's out everywhere on streaming platforms. So if you like this acoustic rendition, you'll probably like the full band version. So feel free to check it out, and thank you so much for listening. Big-eyed, beautiful, oh, she's so wonderful, she said to me. What's wrong with my face? What's something I can change so they'll like me? Shake my head and say, life made you this way, and that's lovely to me. I let you in on something new, something I've had to learn to. Perfect is as perfect as imperfect is, full of shit, and people are too quick to judge, and you shouldn't feel like this. We're a small town, you're bringing her down. Please just let her go to where the lights glow. We're a small town, someday she will leave you, and she will be free to go where she is loved, go where she is loved. They say he hit a wall, that's what they say. Different is okay, and not just in the simple ways. You can be confused, you can be bruised. Different is okay, say it till we see it. Different is okay, say it till we mean it. Oh, small town, you're bringing me down. Please just let me go to where the lights glow. Oh, small town, you're bringing me down. Please just let me go to where the lights glow. Oh, small town, someday I will leave you, and I will be free to go where I am loved, go where I am loved, go where we are loved, go where we are loved, go where I am loved, go where we are loved, go where I am loved, go where I am loved, go where we are. Thank you. That was Small Town.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sarah. We'll hear a bit more from Sarah a little later on. That was great. I love that song. So our first set of readers decided amongst themselves that they wanted to sort of go as a pair, as it were, and split up a larger set between the two of them. So I'm going to introduce both of them. Laurie Stone is author of 5 books, most recently of Everything is Personal, Notes on Now, about which Masha Gessen recently wrote in The New Yorker. The title of the book references one of the central arguments of 1960s feminism, from which Stone hails intellectually. The personal is political. It also describes our current predicament. Everything that is not personal has vanished, and suggests a way of thinking sharply, imaginatively, beautifully from right here. And joining her is Katy Yocom. Katy was born and raised in Atchison, Kansas. Her debut novel, 3 Ways to Disappear, won the Siskiyou Prize for New Environmental Literature and the First Horizon Award, among others, and was named a Barnes & Noble top indie favorite. In researching the novel, she traveled to India, funded by a grant from the Elizabeth George Foundation. Katy was a 2019 recipient of the Al Smith Fellowship Award for Artistic Excellence from the Kentucky Arts Council. She has written for Newsweek, Salon, LitHub, American Way, the American Airlines in-flight magazine, Terrain.org, and elsewhere. A graduate of the low-residency MFA in writing program at Spalding University, she lives in Louisville and serves as Associate Director of the graduate programs of Spalding's School of Creative and Professional Writing. Please welcome Katy Yocom and Laurie Stone.
Thank you. Well, I think Laurie and I, we decided that I would be the bookends and Laurie would be the middle. So I'll go ahead and get started then. I want to thank the Bloomington Writers Guild for inviting me here tonight. I'm really happy to be here. I was supposed to be in Bloomington in April, but of course everything shut down. So I'm happy to be here virtually tonight, and I'm really excited that the fact that we're on Zoom means that we can be together from all over the country. And I am going to be reading from my novel, my debut novel. Let's see if we can get the light right on that. 3 Ways to Disappear. It's looking backwards on my screen, but at any rate, I will be reading from this. I'm going to read 2 short sections, the first one now and the second one later. And I'll start at the beginning of the novel, which I think is usually a good idea. And there goes my dog barking. So let's see if she quiets down. So my novel is a sister story. It's about two sisters who, all right, hold on. Sorry about that. She's been quiet for the past half hour, but somebody started barking outside. So two sisters who are, their lives were torn apart in childhood, and they are now trying to reconnect to each other from opposite sides of the world. Sarah has been living the life of an itinerant journalist, and Quinn has been living a quiet life at home in Louisville, Kentucky, where she's raising her family and working as an artist. When the novel begins, Sarah moves back to India, the country of their childhood, where their family survived a tragedy when their brother died in childhood. So I'm going to start with the opening section of the book, and this is sort of it's a prologue of sorts to the action that takes place when they're adults. And it starts in the voice of Quinn, the sister who lives in the States. In the year after Marcus died, their mother stopped loving people, one after another. Her minister, her tennis coach, her friends, Daddy. On a day dripping with the end of the monsoon, she clicked shut the brass latches on her daughter's suitcases and supervised as Ravindra loaded them into the car. In the courtyard beneath the peepal tree, Daddy clutched the girls to his chest. Quinn, at 11, was the responsible one. Sarah, at 8, the remnant twin, widowed by Marcus when he died, if widowed was the word for it, which it wasn't. There was no word for it. Thin mud soaked their shoes as he kissed their cheeks and begged them not to forget him. It was a terrible thing to hear him say because it opened up the possibility that they could. His voice had gone high with pain, which embarrassed Quinn for him. She didn't think men were supposed to feel that much. Mother pulled the girls away, leaving their father to stand alone in the filtered sunlight, arms dangling at his sides as if he didn't know how they operated. Daddy was a doctor, the reason they lived in India. And India, according to Mother, was the reason Marcus was dead. Daddy's mouth curled down, and he cried silently as his daughters watched. Behind him, Aya wept, rhythmic and soft like singing. Beyond Aya, the watchman stood. The courtyard a chessboard, the adults the game pieces, isolated in their separate squares. Aya's weeping turned ragged, and Quinn and Sarah ran and clung to her until Mother pried their fingers from Aya's damp turquoise sari and pushed the girls, stumbling and crying, into the car. Their shoes muddied the floor mats, but Quinn didn't care. Ravindra opened the wrought iron gate and nosed the car into the inchoate, horn-honking flow of Delhi traffic. In the back seat, Quinn turned around and watched their home grow smaller. Before it vanished altogether, she raised her hand to it and said goodbye. Goodbye to Daddy, to Aya, to every friend, enemy, household staff member, shopkeeper, school teacher, gymnastics instructor, swimming coach. It seemed easy for Mother. She had shut down her heart. But she still loved her girls. The proof was that she took them with her. The other proof was that she hadn't believed Quinn when she tried to confess her role in what had happened to Marcus. Quinn said the words, but Mother had let them fall to her bedroom floor, where they scuttled under the bed and vanished, which meant that the secret was still Quinn's to carry. She had spent a long time considering the consequences before she told Mother what she'd done, but this possibility had never occurred to her. Remember, young ladies, always be good, Ravindra said at the airport curb, his eyes streaming. Sarah and Quinn hugged him hard. They cried. But when Mother told them to leave him, they left, dutiful girls. They boarded an enormous jet and flew west across India, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, across all of Europe to Paris, over the ultramarine Atlantic Ocean and down the eastern seaboard to New York, from there to Louisville, Kentucky, the town where Mother had grown up. They were leaving their unhappiness as far behind them as the planet would allow. Quinn thought she felt it happen. When the plane lifted off from the Delhi runway, she felt an invisible force push her body back into the seat and flow through her, a tide running in the direction of India and the ground. So Mother was right. It was possible to leave things behind, events and stories and history. With a sense of relief as the plane shuddered around her, she lifted up her secret and offered it to the tide. She would go to America and she would be free. She was 28 years old on the day she stopped believing in this magic. 28 and bare-bellied on an examining table, her husband's fingers interlaced with her own. The ultrasound tech ran a wand over her midsection, and in a haze of black and gray, the two children inside her revealed their identities, a boy and a girl, just like Marcus and Sarah. Sarah was 25 at the time. Marcus was still 7, if he was anything at all. As she looked at the hazy images of the children inside her, she felt it again, the weight of the plane lifting off and pushing her down. And she knew then that distance and years were nothing, that no matter what their mother said, their histories traveled with them, stitched into their DNA. And I'll stop there. That's the end of the first scene. Now over to you, Laurie.
Okay, well, the idea, I mean, we just thought it would be fun to splice, and that it might be possible for meaning to jump across, and then again, it might not be, so it won't matter. Just fun to share. So we thought we'd each do a short and a slightly longer one. So that was the short, mine's a little bit longer, and then I'll do the short, and then Katie will read a longer part of her book. Now this is actually a letter that I'm gonna read you. It's a real letter and a fake letter. So I actually wrote it and sent it to the person it's addressed to. But I wrote it with the idea that it wasn't really a private document, and it will actually be published as well. And it has to do with a piece of writing that I was sent to read ahead of time that was published in the current issue of N as in Nancy +1, which is an arts journal. By a writer I've been reading named Francesco Pacifico, who I think is absolutely brilliant and great. And he has been, I think, doing the best writing from COVID time about what it's like to be alive. And also he's really writing a literary book, but still very much in the now. He lives in Rome. He's Italian, and he writes, I think that he's been writing these pieces that have been published in N+1 in English. And then the most recent piece was published in their hardcover version, and it was sent to me a little ahead, and I read it and I wrote to Francesco. So here's the piece. Dear Francesco, thank you for including me in the list of people you wanted to read American Dream. I read it with great pleasure. I am growing accustomed to the voice you have created within COVID time. Maybe it's not new. I have only read these pieces of yours. The guy who talks is mordant, uncomfortable in his skin and in the skin of the world, confident in his sentences. In fact, he appears to live most deeply and happily in the composition of sentences, and who wouldn't if they could devise your funny, unhappy, learned, and self-doubting music. The love the narrator feels for his sentences is what the reader can attach to. We have to attach to the love the narrator feels for something. Maybe the love the narrator feels for his sentences is the only thing the reader ever attaches to in a piece of writing. I say maybe to be polite, because maybe you don't feel this way about what the reader attaches to, and I don't want to cause you discomfort. In fact, I think the novel, with some sort of teleological arrow and some sort of obligation to arouse a sense of completeness for the reader, even if it doesn't resolve all its contradictions, some sense of rounded wholeness, this kind of text, in my opinion, no longer needs to exist. It is not the form for our time. I think you were saying this in your piece. If you are not saying this and dislike the bent of where this email is going, I apologize. I don't really apologize. I don't even know what apologies are for, except when you have actually stepped on someone in any number of ways and suddenly see things from their perspective and feel bad. If I stepped on you, I actually am sorry. Other feelings were stirred while reading this piece. While I was entertained by what the narrator learned about writing and himself and the world of the characters he depicted and the two languages he writes in, while I was fascinated by the various translations and what they summoned, I found myself uncomfortable with and kind of angry at the characters the narrator describes and the entire milieu the book takes place in. As soon as you started to talk about social class, and how could you not, since class is the title of the book, I drifted away from your lush and befuddled people in their lush and bored and excited world and started to think about my decision to become a cater waiter at the age of 53. I mean, an actual waiter with a bow tie or necktie, wearing a tuxedo jacket or any number of other uniforms you need for different bookings. Yesterday, I was walking down the small hill behind the house we bought in November and realized how much in shock I was and how hurt and ashamed I felt without quite knowing the shape and extent of my emotions after being fired unceremoniously in 1999 from the Village Voice, where I'd had a place and an identity for 25 years. Shortly after I was fired, I hatched the idea of becoming a cater waiter. There were practical reasons I explained to friends. No one believed them, and they had nothing to do with my wish to disappear into a world of disguise and food. At the catered events and private parties where I wore various uniforms and carried around silver trays of beautifully shaped hors d'oeuvres that sat on topiaries to make them look even more cunningly alluring, which wasn't necessary, but was a thing in that time. At these events, I served and was invisible to precisely the characters you describe in your novel. They were younger, more beautiful, more ambitious than I had ever been, more sure of their success than I had ever dreamed it was possible to be, and at the same time trembling with anxiety, the vaunted appointments to fame and accolades and cash advances they believed was their inheritance would not in fact come to them because the world was already turning against them, and they might be the last generation to die. I didn't know how to feel about my own ambition, so I made friends with the other waiters, all of whom were actors or dancers or designers or painters. No one else was a writer. These people wanted to be anything but holding a silver tray, while I liked the tray thing. I loved these people because I was lonely, and working in catering is working in a team, and this satisfied me in ways only other caterers or circus people can understand. The team effort is just fantastically fun, and the food was astonishing, and I had so much physical energy to burn, and I was never tired, and I remained a mystery to the people who couldn't understand why I was doing the thing I was doing and soon didn't care. The people I hated most in your novel, based on the sketchy treatment of them in your piece and based on your own confessed distaste for them, were the men. Oh my God, never do they doubt the world belongs to them because they were born this way. They worry the world won't give them what's theirs because it's mean and spiteful and easily turned on by the next human fashion du jour, but they do not doubt the world belongs to them, even if it is stolen away. I just want to bang their heads together. I feel no compassion for their defeat. I hope they are defeated. How could I not, given that the next great moment in history is not theirs? I was hoping the next great moment in history would be the grinding to dust of misogyny. But since everyone hates women and blames women for the defeats of women, and since hating women brings people together as nothing else on the planet can be said to do, the next great moment in history will not be the grinding into dust of misogyny, alas. It is possible I have not read your piece in the way you were hoping it would be read. The way I read it is that through all the different versions of writing the novel, you stopped caring about the novel as a form and began to see that the reader, your desired reader, doesn't care about the content of a piece of writing. The reader cares about the intimacy of the narrator's voice, the feeling that the narrator is speaking directly to them, is confiding its deepest doubts and moments of secret exhilaration. You say you don't think style alone is enough, and yet, in all the pieces you have written in COVID time, you prove style alone is enough. The shame I felt at being fired unceremoniously from the Village Voice has something to do with misogyny, in that if you are a female human and live your life as what others recognize as a female human, you feel implicated in every bad thing that happens to you. And in my case, I can always find an actual reason I caused the disappointing thing to happen. When I prepare food for others, it is beautiful. And much of this beauty was learned from great chefs I worked with as a caterer. Most of the time, I worked long hours preparing a complicated meal for a party and then serving it and cleaning up afterward to make it seem no food had ever moved in or out of the kitchen. I seldom wanted to eat anything I had made except the desserts. Thank you. That's it. That's my letter. Thank you. And what happens next?
We're back to you, Katie. I think you're still muted.
Well, I have done my reading for this 20-minute section, and so I think we're on to Sarah next.
Yeah, we're done. Our set's done.
Very good.
But I'll come back later.
Excellent. And so next we'll have a longer set coming up from Sarah Cassidy.
Hello. Sorry for the delay. I was very wrapped up in the worlds you guys were creating. That was really wonderful to listen to. And to answer Hiromi's question in the chat from a while back, I do not have an album out, but I'm putting one out very soon. So if you do enjoy what you hear today, you can keep up with me on Sarah Cassidy Music on Instagram and Facebook. So this first one of this longer set is called Fire Tower, and I wrote it about a day with my dad in Brown County. And I don't know what it was about that day, but everyone we talked to was so nice and had such interesting things to say. It was just very special, and I wanted to immortalize that into song. So this is Fire Tower. Lady, play me a dulcimer in the back of your shirt. Show me where the octaves are. Exotic spices, rose quartz rings. I listen as you strum the strings. It's this I know that keeps you going. Knick-knack, stop down on the corner. Stranger smiles. We start talking over kitchen towels with churches stitched and paper flowers and other things. I see the joy in your eyes. Unlike your brother, you have no children. It's this I know that keeps you going. People here know what they need. People here live truthfully. When you stand above it all and you know it's you and the leaves. Fudge melts down my fingers as I peel away the paper. Your voice booms when you sing Creedence Clearwater all the way home. Can't see behind us, the sun is gone. It's this I know that keeps you going. People here know what they need. People here live truthfully. When you stand above it all and you know Sturdy step turns wobbly, the branches shrink below me. Maybe I'm too sick in love, but from so high it doesn't touch. Even if it's much too late, floorboards splinter, curfews break. I'm glad I'm here with you. Do you see you like I do? 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 People here know what they need. People here live truthfully. When you stand above it all, when you know it's you and the me. And that's Fire Tower. I'm releasing that one super soon as part of a benefit album for the Indiana Forest Alliance, so I'm really excited about that. And this next one is one I wrote more recently in my dorm room before I had to come home from college, just sitting on the floor. I remember thinking this one was a little weird, different from what I normally do, but hope you like it. Don't feel right, don't feel easy to let someone inside, to let them in. I've got a lot to say. Let's make it fun, let's make it pretty. Chicago, I got caught in someone's picture. A split-second capture of a moment that was nice. Wonder what I was doing, or if my face looked funny. It's irrelevant, but wouldn't that be weird if I'm hiding in someone else's camera roll? Maybe hung up on a wall, places I can be but never been. Maybe I'm there. I'm gonna try and make something that's rough around the edges, but here I am telling you what I'm gonna do and when. I should really stop explaining and start simply being, but that's a little scary. Maybe I will try tomorrow. I'm afraid if I don't always rhyme, you won't listen the whole time. I don't know if I mean what I say. Why do I care? Drifts don't get sad, and maybe gas station flowers aren't so bad. If I didn't try so hard, everything would fall apart. It's kind of feeling good. I romanticize, I fantasize. Whenever I don't scrutinize, I always end up falling away into someone else's mess. Let's give it all for all the cloudy heads and scatterbrains. Let's let ourselves have just one good day. The rest don't get sad, and maybe gas station flowers aren't so bad. If I didn't try so hard, everything would fall apart. Dress don't get sad, and maybe gas station flowers aren't so bad. If I didn't try so hard, everything would fall apart. Dress don't get sad, and maybe gas station flowers aren't so bad. I'll never go back. Sometimes it's good to not go fast. And that's Giraffes Don't Get Sad. This last one I'll be doing for this little set is called Responsibilities. This is one of the first songs I ever wrote. Let me grab my... I'll do this one without a pick. I've got all these responsibilities, people to please, souls to feed. Oh. I've got all these tendencies. You're done with me, I'm done with me too. Pink and blue skies, what I'm trying to find. Don't you try and bring me down. Paper and pen all over again, running myself into the ground. The evening always dwindles on when I'm finding my way back home. I always find it funny how no one ever knows I was gone. I say I love to take them on, but I never carry through. The prettiest songs aren't about me, they're always about you. I've got all these responsibilities, people to please, souls to feed. Oh, I've got all these tendencies. You're done with me, I'm done with me too. Aren't you glad I tried my hardest this time? I know you like it when I do. Lost all those nights, no one's as tired as I. Why do I do this to myself? I say I love to fight the fight, but I care too much for you. You ask me to stay a little while, but there's some things I cannot do. I say I love to take them on, but I never carry through. The prettiest songs aren't about me, they're always about you. I've got all these responsibilities, people to please, souls to feed. Oh, I've got all these tendencies. You're done with me, I'm done with me too. Flies, 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 we are flawed without them. Words, 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 do we ever really say? I can't refine my heart's design to be a bit more like you. Diamonds only shine in the light. You know how much I need you. I can't refine my heart's desire. Diamonds only shine in the light. I can't refine. Diamonds only shine in the light. I've got all these responsibilities, people to please, souls to feed. Oh, I've got all these tendencies. You're done with me, I'm done with me too. And that was Responsibilities. Thank you so much for listening.
And thank you, Sarah. Thanks so much. Always glad to have you on board. We'll get another song from Sarah a little later. Right now, would like to bring up our featured poet for this evening, my good friend Jason Leslie Ammerman. Jason is a poet from Indianapolis, Indiana. He is the author of Battle Scarred, a collection published by Chatterhouse Press. His most recent poetry endeavor is the spoken word poetry music album Revival, released by Perfect Mix Records. He is a member of the Reservoir Dogwoods Poetry Troupe, as am I. In fact, one of the last things I got to do before the big lockdown was we had a Reservoir Dogwoods. There are three of us. We'd had a reading in a gourmet butcher shop in Columbus called the Savory Swine, which we've done a few times. It's one of my favorite things in the world to have done. We'll get back there someday. Anyway, a 30-year veteran of the Indianapolis poetry scene, Jason has hosted and organized many readings in his home city. Currently, Jason is utilizing his social distancing time to hone some recent poems into a new collection. Lastly, Jason wants to thank the Bloomington writing community for always being there with their undying love for the craft. He is very honored and humbled to continually feature for this lovely community, and I will put a link in the chat and on Facebook to the Revival CD. Please welcome Jason Ammerman.
Hello. So yeah, this has been a really crazy time we've been living, and the work I've heard tonight is fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone, for performing and sharing your work. And thank you to the Writers Guild of Bloomington for hosting. This is always a wonderful place to read. And I'm going to read some new stuff, some old stuff, kind of balance. One of the things that's been one of the ways I've been navigating this whole lockdown, social distancing thing is music. I've rediscovered an absolute adoration for music. So I got to thinking the other day, I don't listen to much radio anymore, but I got to thinking the other day about how much I miss it. And so I wrote a poem called Surfing the Radio Dial. I'm going to open with this. Sing to me of subtlety. Tongue in cheek, burning both ends of a sloppy kiss, saliva falling from the corners of our mouths. Tense. Our lips, then and now. Radio is the best of us. The fumbling of knobs, weaving through the airspace fuzzy. Our own obsessions with gold and platinum, to pay to play, good old days of rock and roll and silence. And a word stuck in as if birthed or a terrestrial connection. Our touches, fingertips upon skin, if we broadcast it, if we share exhalations, we will portray our love as a slithering snake-like monster. Fear will mutate into a muting of the serious questions like, do you love me? Do you need me? Do you find me fascinating, posed for all of this technology stolen? But our love is tossed to the sky with such great velocity that it falls as daisy petals. It falls as we will collapse beneath into silence. Tonight, I scour clouds. It is midnight, such a heady time to find religious inspiration, a vision of a virgin, a martyr, a messiah. For your love, I will burn my rock and roll records. I will dispel the music that led from conversation to backseat conception at the drive-in movie theater. A 1958 classic, a Plan 9 without a Plan B. Vietnam was no different. It was a sacrifice. So sing to me of sexuality, of love made and traded in for warmongering, of hands sliding over original forests, failing them into desolation. We are friends, we are lovers, given to listen to the platters in a perfect spinning narrative, so close to God that she leaves alive. Entire lifetimes as 75% of eternities, written desperately inside of ballads, deftly dedicated long distance on late night love song radio. Our fingers hesitant to press record for a time and time saved for just the right moment. down the road, navigating airwaves in search of what made life innocent and prostrate for a savior. And man, it was cool, Daddy-O. It was cool, baby. It was the music rearing up its sweaty octaves of boogaloo before revolutions per minute news cycles, kidnapping escapes, drunk from 1970s pina coladas. This poem is a personal ad to sweet Jane via Lou Reed. This poem is a relic of street hassle overdoses and hissing streetlights and junkie love. I am addicted in love with you. Tongue in cheek, we kiss sloppy still. I'm here to tell you, radio, you should meet me at the usual place. This time will be different, I promise. All is well on this tilting axis, this Fanon-inspired folk songy nexus, hunched over with your face distorted. I cannot make out who the villain really is. There is the solace of everlasting snow covering a photograph of a family tree uproot. Knot-hole eyes looking up to the sky. Blades of grass running away. That was a poem called A View of the Earth from the Moon. That was actually in my very first collection of poems that I was lucky enough to have published in 2006 called All Grown Up. I love that just because it's very kind of, you don't really know, I don't really know what it's about. So I just like it. I hope you did too. So I've been kind of busy writing new stuff. It's been really kind of hard getting it jump started, but I just sat down and all this stuff started coming out. So it's beautiful how the muse works. This is a newer piece inspired by a wonderful friend who just told me what they were doing, and the image alone inspired an entire poem. And that's such a rarity that things like that would happen. And I just really dig it. So, and I know that they're watching this, so I hope they'd really like this. It's called Aloof. Sexy you, guessing my weight and age, but you can sense the rage in my stare. This stage is a hell of a performance space, I tell you, because I can imagine you in your summer dress, slinging pebbles at a full moon, barefoot in your damp red hair. I can imagine your words vibrating the wings of butterflies as they flutter by. For today is the day where you will win my heart. Sexy me, throwing jokes like chewed up bubble gum, grape flavored and hoping that one sticks. I am stuck grinding gears and dumb. You can find me in the parking lot seeking heaven inside of a brown paper bag disguised as scotch, tossing 2 bits up as they land, one heads, one tails. You can find me hoping Oklahoma falls into the ocean, where I could fall just as easily if only I could touch you. Gliding fingertips and slight whispers. This sleight of hand is merely flirtation after a slurred word or two. Sexy you, the object of affect in an 80s metal music video. I feel it only matters, this love thing, to hairspray junkies and sexist male poets, shoving metaphor to echo metaphor, approaching critical redundancy. I can imagine our skins so close that darkness will give way to light. The sweat on our bodies reflect who we really are. You are the cliche angel of late night imagination. I am the astrological sign dropped as a pickup line. We are the ones that get away, reincarnated. Sexy us, guessing each other's occupations. You can smell the desperation from across the bar. Odious, dripping from our napkin poems about terse red lips. You can find me hiding behind this sexy me, aloof before the sexy you. I can imagine your kiss knocking my knees to shatter tectonic plates beneath us, where I have little choice than to fall. I really like that poem. I hope you did as well. This is an older poem. I wrote this right around 16, 17, the fall into this winter. And it's called God is Here. it was during that time I was reconciling, leaving school because I was studying theology and history, and I had to figure out what exactly God wanted for me. And it starts out with an epigraph from Sylvia Plath. God is here. I talk to God, but the sky is empty. Sylvia Plath. Not a single cloud. No billowy white business happening up there. It is plain, a deep blue hue. And it is chilled to the ground. God, not a subtle smile across faces as they mill along the sidewalk of downtown, a gray concrete normal. This is normal, God. But she is weak in the knees from a lack of breakfast. No eggs, no toast, no bacon, just the succulent coffee overpaid for. Ignoring all of the other signs, the honking car as it speeds through the red light as she crosses a busy street. She is weak in the knees from a head full of songs sung, just happy songs, a bounce to her step as she traverses the ant colony of office workers, seeing dollar signs like cha-ching, like being a language that is best understood, hotboxing cigars. Every Sunday morning, her and her man file into the church sanctuary, ready to throw off the week's sins. They go through the motions. God, every Sunday afternoon, they grip the armchair in earnest, calling plays to the local football team who needs a coach. God, for every touchdown, her man downs a beer from a can, sunshine outside and brats on the grill and brats playing in the yard. This is family time. He and the TV, as each commercial reminds him to get his erectile dysfunction under control. She is folding laundry as if witnessing a massacre of Lakota tribal leaders. Cowhide breeches wrinkled and taut across the thigh, and she gets to thinking about the night's festivities where the kids go to bed, the husband passes out in the easy chair, and she a hot bath. Not a single cloud, no billowy white business happening up there. It is plain, a deep blue hue, and it is chilled to the ground. God, as we turn our clocks back to get an extra hour to think in retrospect, a shot of Novocaine and a wave of a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, they are just flowers ready to bloom in the rain, putting money and housework before God. They are just flowers ready to bloom in the rain, cursing coaches and dodging high-speed, high blood pressure drivers. This is the gray, normal life that we live. Inanimate babysitters on Sundays, high-priced coffee, a quake from within, the saddened crumble of faith. No longer an empty sky, no longer a poem that leads to suicide. This is love. And God is here. And God is here, and this is love. God is here today, tomorrow, was here yesterday. He is in the trees, the sunshine, the brilliant blue hue that warms us, the blessings in verse sung. God is here to change our world, to add some color to the concrete, the spring, the step of the commuter to work. To make them smile with corny dad jokes, to explode into laughter, to remind us that we will all love it, this life, as much as we can possibly love one another. All right, I'm doing good on time, Tony, I hope. Cool. I've got a few more, and this is a more recent poem from a few years ago, 2017. It's called "The Last Time I Lassoed a Bunch of Stars." Because sometimes one must rein in the rebellious, the stars that twinkle in synchronicity with the Swiss watches whose attitudes fall in line with beauty, with the leaves that change with the seasons of inspired despair, with little black holes that suck us in like reality television junkies, with reggae to dance to the 400-pound atoms colliding like broken hearts in search of the loveless. You picked me. You picked me when I wept freely and without care against the backdrop of a monsoon. Sideways, I stare at you with warfare in the eye because it pisses me off to dare that survivors would flinch, and they always do, like distortion giving the finger to Les Paul. Treasure this moment, you told me. Treasure this moment, you told me, as I jump back and forth from present to past in time, counting off the rhythm like jackass kicks against the barn, sending splinters up into a sky that is dark, like broken hearts in search of the loveless. The last time I lassoed a bunch of stars, well, it was like the first time that we kissed, and it was like the only time that we were honest. It was like our hearts were breaking in search to becoming the loveless. Because sometimes one must rein in the rebellious, hiding electricity inside of storm clouds, for they are cousins at the party that no one wants to admit to being related to. Always slipping sly eyes from across the field, mice running for cover into poison traps, leaving elevated spirits outside of carcasses. Hell is just enough of a tripping through minefields to get through the hot summer day, minus the leg or two. It's all for conversation. So discuss with me. The last time I lassoed a bunch of stars, it was like a cramp in the calf that won't go away. It was like the sun setting over an ominous omen of optimism. It was like repeating over and over and over that we love each other in whispers and whispers. You loved me, so I wrote a poem about it. Without care, against a backdrop of grease paint, erotic clown, heavy petting games. We loved hard. We loved like we should on Saturdays, like the cadence of marching band protests. No more nukes, you scream, in slow motion and lower decibels. Hushes and hugs, just hushes and hugs. So I don't always, I like to write about love a lot. I don't always write about love, but I like to. When I don't, I write about like things that are peripherally connected with love. This is about 5 years old. I have to admit, this is probably one of the most unique titles I've ever, had the joy of coming up with. This is called An Orgy of Separate Legs. Their appearance was that of perfectly sculpted marble, a muscular fixation of ocular infatuation with bruising. Egos shatter in front of safety words, the inane release of salivating euphoric uprising of rapturous language. Shh, we need not to speak. Our hands force a series of one slight mishap, a rugged madcap aggro rock and roll complexity of sexism, and grinding, crotch-grabbing, reversing, loose elasticity, tube sock draping over ancient sneakers. The strings cutting off arterial flow into one-night stand empty promises to call in the morning. Shh, no promises needed. Just the satisfaction of 1,000-yard stares following them for the rest of their lives. This is going to be my last piece. Thank you so much for hosting me. I really appreciate all of you. And this is a new one from last week. It's called Beneath a Peace Sign. Weed smoking done me in. Sorry, let me start that over. Weed smoking done did me in like disco. The last pitch was thrown years ago toward dumpster fires outside of the stadium. I was all in my glory of 1999, and we partied like it was 1999. We danced like neutrons still mattered. We loved before the pearly gates of heaven whitewashed, where my sex tasted like each of your footsteps. My damned rotted teeth are left of French kisses disguised as English dentistry. I smile like I got dice in my mouth. Reminiscing beneath a peace sign, those were the days before the hurt of losing you drove me to drink, drove me to think about building cars only to take them apart to put them back together again. Instead of sleeping in next to the place where your head used to lay, the pillow still smells of your shampoo. And that drives me crazy. Where you slept your damned rotted teeth away, left of 1970s love and rubbish strikes, and I still smile through a good drunk, reminiscing through peace signs. Your ghost staring at the flowers on your grave. Those were the days. Those were the days whispered from my lips. Those were the days shouted from your side of the bed. Thank you.
Awesome. Fantastic, Jason. Glad to have you. So next we're going to have a little interlude with Sarah Cassidy. Sarah, why don't you take it away?
All right, I'm back with another recent song. Jason, those were amazing. I got so drawn in listening to those. I'm loving listening to all this beautiful art today. I love it. And I'm excited to show you guys this one. It's one I wrote very recently, also another dorm room song, and it's called It. Green tears on cheeks, this basement reeks, everyone feels the same. It can see every glance she moves, her tiny hand. Why did you have to sit only 5 feet away? Those big brown eyes, big brown eyes, they're bigger than dimes, they're bigger than mine. Music to soothe the masses makes our bodies turn to gases, we feel the same. But once they leave this party, they all go home and wonder, oh, what I wouldn't have seen if I hadn't gone out again. But someone is always the reason we leave our little rooms. Someone is always the reason it looms. A comic, a clown, you laugh around, driving 90, not giving a damn. The teasing, wheezing, playground talk, you don't see the wanting, you just can't. Don't ask her if she is home, she'll run there. Don't send her your favorite song, she'll listen as the hours tick away. It's big green eyes, nowhere to hide, nowhere to hide. Give the old system a jolt, flip the off switch. In the morning she'll hurt a different way. This taste in her mouth, she can't drink it down. Go away. Go away. Go away. Go away. My big brown eyes are green tonight. The monster thrives in the rest. And that was it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks so much. We'll get one more from Sarah a little later on. Right now, I want to bring back our pair of authors, Laurie Stone and Katy Yocom. Who's going first this time?
Laurie is.
Very good.
Okay, here we go. All right, let me do gallery. Can you hear me? Okay, good. So, the letter I just read to you before, I sent it to Francesco. I just wanted to mention that he loved it. And he said, publish it. So that's interesting. In case you were worried about this man's tender feelings. This is from bits and pieces of other pieces that I've written, but I wanted to read stuff that I'd written now since COVID. So this is COVID-y. When I was 24, I didn't know I was having a panic attack. I was checking my pulse all the time and feeling made of balsa wood. I visited a friend in the Swiss Alps, and one morning I woke up and looked past the filmy curtains over the balcony, and all I could see was white. I was in a cloud, and I thought to myself, am I dead? A little while ago, I asked the man I live with if to exist, virtue needed a lack of virtue for comparison, and he said no. I said, the concept of virtue feels Christian to me, and I don't like it. He said, it started with the Greeks. I said, I feel vulnerable. Admitting this has added a layer of vulnerability. It's hot and there isn't enough rain. The birds are singing as if everything is great. The man I live with is reading Foucault's last lectures on telling the truth about yourself. In the radical present, the past is things you didn't learn, and the future melts in the morning sun. We attach tiki lamps to the railings of our deck and are burning citronella oil to ward off insects. If you come here, I will make you a drink with an umbrella. In Beckett's plays, first there are carrots and turnips, then only turnips. In another play, first you're buried up to your waist, and then up to your neck. Now, television is on the way out since no one will be able to shoot new shows. The truth of my life is I was always going to miss a lot of what's going on. I am remembering a day I walked along a long street in Brooklyn lined with townhouses in various states of repair and disrepair. I walked past a park with patchy lawns, then through a section where men, it was mostly men, were cooking on grills and laughing and listening to jazz and drinking beer. A man was burning incense. He was tall and burly. I said, that smells great. He said, it's called Barack Obama. There was a gap between his front teeth that were capped in gold. I said, oh, you're making me cry. He said, don't cry, pray for him. He's a good man. I said, I would. He said, would you like some incense? I said, thank you, but I'm going to a bar. When my sister was dying, the room I was sleeping in was hot, and I would slip down to the living room where the air conditioning was better and where from the couch I could see the baby grand she had inherited from our parents. I think of calling her. Her voicemails are saved on my phone. We have always existed in a great pause, and narrative has never needed a direction. I remember riding in the back of a van. The image just came to me. I was seated beside a guy who was handsome, an actor maybe, uncertain of his future, very handsome and kind. In some sense, I cannot put my finger on. It's very late, maybe 3 a.m, and the other waiters are sleeping. They are dead tired, and the handsome man and I are touching each other slowly in the rhythm of the ride, and we're kissing. We have worked a party in Westchester or maybe further away, and I don't know why this happens. I'm 54, he's 30-something, and the sadness of catering floats around us. It floats around the guests too, the sense of a social occasion no one really wants to be at, and the kissing quiets something and arouses something, not just desire, something soft and inexplicable. And I know why I'm remembering this in COVID time. A few days before my sister died, she put glaucoma drops in her eyes and said, in case I wake up tomorrow without cancer. I said to the man I live with, we need to have living wills and medical power of attorney. He said, why? Is someone going to die? Thank you. Katy. Katie girl, where are you? Here you go.
Here
Okay.
I am.
Okay.
Laurie, that was amazing. I love the intellect and the movement and everything that you've read tonight. It's
Thank
so
you.
cool.
Thank you.
Um,
I don't know why you think there's intellect there, but whatever.
I detect it. I detect it.
I'm joking. Yeah.
I do. No, this has been an amazing reading. I mean, everyone and the music too, Sarah, gorgeous. And Jason, I love your poems. Hiromi, I love what you read earlier. So what a fantastic night. I'm having such a good time. And I love being with people from all over too. So this is extra special. And it's especially special, if I can say that, because my publisher is here tonight, Midge Raymond from Ashland Creek Press, who put out this beautiful book. And I'm gonna raise it up again, even though I know it's backwards. But
No, we see it right. We see it right.
You see it right? Okay, good. Yes, when I saw the cover of this book, I was so excited. I still get excited at the cover every time. But that's only one of the many wonderful things that Midge did for me and did for this book. So I'm just so grateful. I'm so glad she's here. So I'm going to be reading a section. Laurie, you just read a very sort of city-based poem, and I'm going to be reading a section that's out in the middle of the countryside in India. So a little bit of a contrast here. So I think I explained at the beginning that Sarah is the itinerant journalist sister, and as the book opens, she's given up her job as a journalist, and she's moving back to India, where they spent their childhood, where they lost their brother, and she's taken a job in wildlife conservation. So this is her first day in India, getting an introduction to the park where the wildlife, and specifically the tigers, live. Sarah awoke before dawn to a chilly apartment. She dressed in her warmest clothes and carefully made her way down frost-slick stairs to the courtyard where Sanjay and William and the driver waited in an open Jeep. The night was black, the air cold as iron, but her introduction to Ranthambore would proceed according to plan. On the wind-whipped drive to the park, Sanjay pronounced the cold weather highly auspicious. "The animals will teach us something new today," he shouted to William and Sarah, who sat in the back seat, wrapped tight in buffalo-clad blankets, eyes watering from the assault of frigid air. The driver, a kind-faced, barrel-chested man named Hari, slowed the Jeep only when they turned off the macadam of Ranthambore Road onto the dusty track into the park. The Jeep shuddered and snorted white exhaust into the freezing pre-dawn blackness. Around them, hills rose blacker than the sky. Bird chatter rose up amid the bustle of bodies moving in the trees, the blunt sound of feathers against air. Whoever thought the countryside was quiet had never been around birds in the morning. Sanjay identified their calls: white-bellied drongo, Asian paradise flycatcher, rufous-tailed shrike. Sarah sat back and listened, both to learn a few things and to enjoy the cadences of Sanjay's voice, the British cast of his vowels, the V's instead of W's, jungle warbler. A peahen mewed, night thinned to gray, and Sanjay gestured for Hari to wheel the Jeep onto a track leading into the forest. A few dozen yards in, where the blackness still held, Sanjay murmured, "Boss," and Hari stopped in the middle of the road, killing the engine, but leaving the headlights on to illuminate the track. "Claw marks," Sanjay pointed to scratches in a tree trunk at the edge of the headlight's reach. "But he hasn't been here for 3 or 4 days. Maybe today he makes his rounds again." For 40 minutes, they waited in the biting air. Sanjay and Hari exchanged a few quiet words about Hari's children, then fell silent so as not to scare off the animals. The engine ticked intermittently as it cooled. Sarah thought the membranes inside her nose might freeze and shatter. For a time, she listened to the pressured pulsing in her ears to take her mind off her fingertips, burning with chill despite her gloves. A hoopoe stalked across the road, its headdress of black-tipped feathers swaying. Sanjay handed Sarah his copy of Birds of the Indian Subcontinent. As she read the field guide by the red beam of her penlight, something shifted in the atmosphere to her right. Without moving, she slid her eyes in that direction. And there he was, a tiger, standing alongside the Jeep. She could have reached out and touched him. In the gray half-light, his body blended into the forest like a ghost. He turned his head and looked right into her eyes. Then he stepped past her into the headlights, and Sanjay whispered, "Tiger, tiger, tiger," and the four of them rose to their feet. In the light, he was no ghost, but a big, glossy male, long and lean, close enough that Sarah could see the individual hairs in his fiery orange coat. His breath turned to smoke as it hit the air. Without taking her eyes off the animal, Sarah raised her camera. Something about the angle of the tiger's shoulder seemed eloquent, as if all his power and grace originated there. The backs of his black ears sported white spots that stared back like eyes, then disappeared as he flicked his ears backward to judge the Jeep's proximity. He had registered their presence, that much was clear, but he had already measured them up and decided they weren't worth bothering about. He sauntered down the middle of the track, unhurried but purposeful, stopping every few feet to spray his scent on a tree or bush. 20 feet past the Jeep, he reared up and placed his forepaws on a tree trunk, stretching easily 6 feet up. In profile, his eye glowed amber, as if lit from within. His tail swished the dust as he pulled his claws through the bark, which squealed and groaned under his mauling. Hari started the engine and the tiger turned his head, his eyes transforming into an unearthly electric green. He pulled his black lips into a demonic snarl, wrinkling the skin of his nose and cheeks. His long canines gleamed. Then he dropped silently to all fours and disappeared into the trees. Sanjay turned to Sarah and grasped her hand in victory. "God is smiling on you," he said, and in fact, so was Sanjay himself. That was Akbar, the resident male. To see him in your first hour in the park, it's unheard of. Later that morning, back in her apartment, she thought about that moment. God is smiling on you. People didn't usually talk to her that way, but she liked it that Sanjay did. Throughout the morning, he had seen everything and known what it meant. Not only did he spot pug marks, paw prints from a moving Jeep, he could tell how old they were. If dewdrops had fallen into a pug mark from the trees, the track had been made before dawn. 3 times he heard noises that Sarah didn't even register. Once it was a tiger's far-off roar, barely more than a vibration in their chests. Sarah took a photo of him at that moment, one hand in the air for quiet, lips slightly parted, a searching look on his face. In the bedroom, she peeled off her clothing, scattering whitish dust onto the tile in an irregular circle like unbleached flour. It was too cold to shower, so she wiped herself down with a washcloth and dressed as quickly as she could. She figured it was maybe 45 degrees in her apartment. The tile floor didn't help matters. Still, she had a space heater and warm clothes, which put her in the privileged class. On the pre-dawn drive to the park, they had passed a farmer wearing a thin dhoti kurta and a turban. He clutched a shawl around his shoulders, but his legs and feet were bare to the bitter cold. India was a hard place to live, a hard place to make anything change, a hard place to get past the tragic and the absurd. She picked up her camera and flipped through the morning shots. That tiger. She opened up her laptop and wrote up the encounter in an email to Quinn. She wrote one last paragraph, hesitated, deleted it, and pasted it back in. What hit me was not so much the majesty of the animal, but the practicality of it all. For the first time, I understood the tiger as a creature with a job. His work this morning was to patrol his territory the way a person might start the workday by catching up on email. For the first time in my adult life, I saw a tiger in the wild, and I found myself shocked to discover that he and I have something in common, that the tiger's untamed nature does not exempt him from routine and responsibility, that wildness and freedom are not the same thing. This was not the way Sarah normally wrote. On assignment, she reported, she didn't interpret. Her editor, Hal, used to say, in the sardonic way of old school newsmen, "If your mother says she loves you, check it out." What he meant was, take nothing at face value, verify everything, and find a statistic or an official to quote. Do not compare your life to a tiger's. But this tiger had looked straight into Sarah's eyes. The way she saw it, that eye contact gave her permission to write it any way she wanted. She sent the message and moved into the front room, where she placed a few photos in a niche above the low Madras plaid couch. A shot of her skydiving, a photo she'd taken of the boy soldiers after their surrender, a faded snapshot of Marcus and her leaping off the back of a sofa, knees bent, feet pedaling the air. They'd linked arms, both of their free arms flinging outward like wings, as if they were one flying creature with two backlit blonde heads. There must have been a reason she had lived and Marcus had died. They both went into the creek that day. They both came down with cholera. But maybe she was made of more resilient stuff, the same quality that had made her the older twin by 10 minutes. Or maybe it was Sarah's fate to cause her brother's death. They lived in a house full of adults plus one older sister, yet in the moment she had lured him outside, they had managed to slip beneath the notice of every single person charged with their care. The sheer unlikelihood of that achievement seemed to argue that its outcome was fated. Or maybe the universe didn't make it its business to pay attention to naughty 7-year-olds, or to anyone else for that matter. In her adult life, Sarah had seen plenty of evidence to support that hypothesis, in which case the adults should have been paying vastly more attention. She sat down on the low sofa with a pad of notepaper and a pencil. This was the reason she'd come back. She began composing a classified ad to place in the Times of India. It was 1974, she wrote. We were 3 American children. You were our Aya. And that's all. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, Katy. That was great. And thank you once again, Laurie Stone. Both of you, fantastic, a great pair. I think it worked too. I think having you sort of up against each other, I thought worked really well. So thanks for the suggestion. We're going to bring Sarah Cassidy back for a last song before we sign off for this evening. Sarah?
All right, can you hear me all right? An odd moment there. Okay, sweet. So, yes, as everyone's been saying, it's been such a gift listening to everyone today. Very inspiring, and I'm excited to keep up with all of your work after this. I love having new writers and new poets to support and listen to everything you have coming out. And this final song is also one of my older songs. It's called Home, and it will be on my album, so I hope you enjoy. You have many faces, you have many names. I left you behind, you left a trace. There's a lot of you in this tired town. Must be something in the water. The things you dreamed of were in your hand. All you needed to do was grab them. I want you to know this isn't a love song. I like to call this a remember to forget song. Hope somebody gets you what you need. That somebody can never be me. Lost girl find home. They love you, you know. I can't be the one who saves you. What's this small boat? I've got to let go. This town will never be our home.
know it's hard when you're under the things you dreamed of are in your hand. All you needed to do was grab them. I want you to know this isn't a love song. And like your coldest, I remember to forget song. Hope somebody gets you what you need. That somebody can never be me. Lost girl, find out they love you. You know I can't be the one who saves you. I'll see small boat, I've got to let go. This town will never be your home. You've made yourself a princess, a damsel in distress, but you won't let anyone let you down. If you want to be saved, let yourself be saved. You won't let anyone let you down. I want you to know this isn't a love song. I like your coldest sound, remember to forget song. Hope somebody gets you what you need. That somebody can never be me. Lost girl, find out they love you. You know I can't be the one who saved you. Well, say small but I've got to let go. This town will never be your home.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for listening. It's been a wonderful night. Thank you.
And thank you, Sarah Cassidy. Glad to see you again. Glad to hear you again. Glad you're doing well. And I noticed we have like the same wall. I know we must have gone to the same paint stores. Like the lights here is a little different, but yeah, it looks great, by the way. Good job.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Sarah Cassidy. I want to thank all of our performers this evening, Hiromi Yoshida, our poets, Hiromi Yoshida and Jason Ammerman, and our authors, Laurie Stone and Katy Yocom. Thanks so much for being here. And of course, Sarah Cassidy, thanks for being our musical guest this evening. We're going to close out on Facebook Live here in just a moment, but you folks on the Zoom, feel free to hang out. This was a presentation of the Writers Guild at Bloomington, our monthly spoken word series, which happens on the first Wednesday of every month. We are sponsored in part by the Indiana Arts Commission, the Bloomington Arts Commission, and the Bloomington Urban Enterprise Association. That one's always a little tough. If you are feeling like it, you should make your way over to the Writers Guild website, which is Writers Guild Bloomington, all one word, writersguildbloomington.com. Feel free to give us a small donation if you're feeling like it. And you should definitely sign up for our newsletter regardless. Joan Hawkins has been doing a fantastic job with the newsletter, especially since we have all been shut down and canceled and all that. Just injecting some literary insights and as well as keeping us informed about opportunities and ways to keep this going while we're not in direct contact with each other. It's been really difficult because we are social people and we like to get together and do this live in person, and we will again, but so far the Zoom is what we have. So be sure and join us again next month. We'll have another fantastic lineup, which will be on Wednesday, September 2nd. We'll have from South Bend, a poet named Brooke Nicole Plummer. Three poets next month. From South Bend, Brooke Nicole Plummer. from Florence, Kentucky, Karen George, and from right here in Bloomington, you heard her tonight, Hiromi Yoshida. So those will be our featured poets. Our featured musician is a fantastic guitarist, Richard Bonnet, who will be joining us from Paris. That's right, Paris, France. It'll be midnight, but I think he's used to keeping late hours. So that should be another fantastic lineup. This was a fantastic lineup. Thrilled to have everyone here. As I noticed in the chat, all the comments, a tremendous mix of diverse voices and styles. It was a pleasure to host you this evening. Once again, my name is Tony Brewer. I'm the treasurer of the Writers Guild. I've been your host tonight. And along with Joan Hawkins, who is chair, and Kyle Quas, who's the secretary, we are the producers of this thing, and we appreciate your patronage. Everybody stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, and we will get over this in due time. Thanks once again, and have a pleasant evening.